Hey guys, StarCraft here, and I got another interview, a bigger name this time. Not that the others weren't any less big. I got with me Mike S. Miller, Lonestar, Injustice, so many other works. How's it going, Mike?
MAGA7.com.
Yep, that too, Mike.
Going all
MAGAnificant
right.
7.
Going all right.
Yes.
We crossed 20,000 last night, so we got our sticker stretch goal going, and coming up on 350 backers pretty soon. So
Oh, nice.
not bad for a
So,
week. It hasn't even been a week. It'll be a week and an hour and a half. So
that be. Oh yeah, that is about right.
Yep.
Yep. So, you've worked in the industry about how long would you say? Comics overall.
It'll be 28 years this summer.
Oh, whew, wow, that's a lot. And from what I've
Actually,
looked
this spring,
this spring. Oh,
it's 28 years. Because I started working, I think before the end of the semester. It was like right after WonderCon 1992. So.
Wow. But so now one of the works you're best known for doing is Injustice, and that's considered your longest consistent gig. Is that right?
Yeah, longest standing constant project. The longest the gig I've had the longest is probably the Hedge Knight series, which I did the Hedge Knight in 2002, 2003, and then the last one I did was Mystery Knight, which was just a few years ago. So it's spanned, a good amount of time, but it's like 6 issues here, then 6 issues here, then 6 issues here, and then that's
right.
Although the Mystery Knight
rotating cast, I think.
I was just saying that Mystery Knight wasn't even issues; it was just we did it all in one graphic novel.
Right. But yeah, with Injustice, I mean, you're the one who pretty much gave us that famous Superman hand racer to Joker, since that got censored in the game, obviously. So that's probably one of the most recognized moments in that whole series.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was censored in the first game, but they did end up doing it in the second game. They well, not in the game, but in the sort of the run up to the game, they had a video, montage or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Yeah. So. And it was in there, and they used my hand. They totally clipped it right out of the comic book.
So, what eventually led to you leaving comics and doing the into the crowdfunding scene? Was it you chose to do it, or did you really not have much of a choice?
Let's see. I wasn't getting any more Injustice work. I was really making, actually, for a lot of that time, I was making the majority of my money at Comic Cons, because working for DC, just it's not a lot of money. You do it because you love it, and you get, if I was single, or maybe just had one kid and I lived in Indiana or something, I'd have been doing fine. But I have 5 kids and I live in San Diego, so working for DC wasn't cutting it. So I was doing cons for about 6 years there. It was my main source of income. I mean, so much easier.
Right.
I could go to one show a month and make sometimes double what I'd make, sitting at my desk working my butt off all month drawing comic books. So it's it was a very lucrative shift. But I still wanted to draw comics, so I still did that. I still did the Game of Thrones covers. And then I saw the first thing that really kind of lit the crowdfunding fire was Alt Hero from Vox Day, of all people, who I had I knew nothing about. All I saw was this, like, far right wing comic book about a patriotic character. I don't know, she was Southern or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I'm like, heck yeah. And he made $250,000.
You could do that.
Yeah, he made $250,000. And then Ethan did Cyberfrog. He was crowdfunding Cyberfrog, and he was making, he made got up to $400,000. And then like that night he invited me on his stream, and he's like, you got to do this, Mike, you got to do this. And I'm like, I was already building my universe, actually, for about, I don't know how long. It was a while before that. I had a partner who knew some big like media muckety mucks, and so I had the white paper, and I had Blacklist Universe as a business idea, and a white paper, and a story pitch, not a story pitch, what do you call that with the slides? Anyways.
Storyboard.
Yeah, not really a storyboard, just kind of a pitch deck.
Okay.
And so my partner was actually trying to find investors and media personalities to partner with in order to build Blacklist Universe from that angle. We're looking for however much money it takes to build a comic book universe, comic book company that would be a long-term investment, a long-term, business plan. And part of that plan was always crowdfunding, because my friend Dennis Kako, who I've had on my show, he's the inventor of the undress, and he's made millions of dollars over the years on Kickstarter. So he'd make usually about $500,000 every campaign he did. He did the undress, he did a bunch of other projects. And so he was like a crowdfunding expert. And he actually is asked to go around and do like speeches at schools and whatnot on crowdfunding. So he had convinced me to do crowdfunding probably a year or two prior to all of this stuff. But he said, before you launch a crowdfund, you have to have an email list of a minimum email list of 4,000 people, which, looking back, this is a guy that does $500,000 campaigns. So that was probably shooting a little high. So what I had started collecting emails at all the Comic Cons that I was going to. And that's when this whole thing happened with Ethan and Zach and Alt Hero and all that stuff. And in the crowdfunding model, part of it was always find influencers who you can, interview or do interviews with, or influencers who will help you with it. And then this model became, hey, become your own influencer. And so at this point, I probably have, I don't know, I have a decent mailing list now. And actually, it's funny because I'm currently shadow banned on Indiegogo. So
I noticed.
Yeah, you can't browse and find my comic book. So the sales for the past essentially 3 days have been either me posting the crap out of it on social media, Facebook and Twitter, or running ads on Facebook, or they are coming from my pre-existing email list, because I am still doing daily email blasts. Like today is the last day you can get the initial discounts from the email list,
right?
Or from the first Brigadier tier, which I started with the first campaign.
Yeah, I gotta say, I like that. You're the only one I know of who does that, who gives good discounts and deals to people who have backed prior projects. No one else has done that, as far as I know.
Really? They should.
Yeah, they should. But
they should. You're rewarding your backers. You're still making money. You're not making as much, but you're rewarding loyalty to people who want to stick around and follow your business as it grows. So that's awesome. I think they're my favorite backers. People who've been here. Okay, I can't say that. Everybody's my favorite. Everyone's my favorite one. But I got to reward the guys that were here on the first 30 days of the first campaign.
Yep. I mean, I know I was able to get Monster Hunt without any shipping. I believe was one of your the deals, and that's how I got my issue of that. But yeah, with Lonestar, how long have you had that idea for?
Lonestar was, I came up with him at a Chicago Comic-Con a few years ago. And it's funny because I came up with him. This is a weird thing. This is one thing I always say about superheroes is a superhero is as good or only as good, maybe only as good as their villains, which is why I always hated Iron Man in the comics because his rogues gallery was trash. But, you know,
except for Obadiah Stane.
Batman has like the greatest rogues gallery, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. So I actually had this character called the Iron Cross who was like the uber villain of all time. He's basically Superman as a villain, as a Nazi, right?
Ooh.
And I'm like, I'm starting with the best villain. So I'm going to create a hero to fight the villain instead of the other way around. So that way he starts off with his origin story being, you know, the guy who took down the biggest, baddest dude in the history of the universe.
Yep.
So
which he definitely did in the second issue.
Yep. I do explain his origin a little bit. Someday maybe I'll do the entire origin story, which could be cool, but yeah.
But and then the Unknown Soldiers, which you didn't really, did you name them any time before Monster Hunt? Because Monster Hunt was the first time where I actually fully saw Unknown Soldiers as the team name. But where did that come about from?
Actually, Unknown Soldiers is a way older project than Lonestar is. What I did with Lonestar is I had Lonestar, I had my Unknown Soldiers project, and I had my vampire trilogy I called Bloodborne, which I came up with 20 years ago. I came up with this, but yeah, and then the game came out, and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. So I actually took 3 separate story ideas and I merged them. So it was Iron Cross, Lonestar. So I just make that one story. The Unknown Soldiers so obviously the Unknown Soldiers came up. The idea was that underneath the Unknown Soldier memorial, where it's constantly guarded, right, is like an entrance to sort of like a super secret G.I. Joe type of. That was my original Unknown Soldiers storyline, like, you know, the super secret G.I. Joe team. In my Bloodborne storyline, going back to the original, it was about a young girl who gets drawn into this vampire coven because, you know, her family is broken. Her mom, like, her mom divorces her dad because her dad is in the military and he's constantly moving. He's like in special forces and he's constantly moving from place to place to place. And she was sick of it. She wanted her daughter to be able to sit down and have roots in a place. So they settled in LA, and she's like, you know, her dad has to come and visit her instead of following him around the world. And because of the divorce, she gets, you know, all moody and broody and whatever. And then she ends up like going with a goth friend of her into this club, which leads into her joining or discovering this vampire underworld under Los Angeles, where they have their own little fiefdom. And eventually she gets like dragged into it, and then she tries to escape it. She comes home and she like calls her dad, and she's telling him what's going on, like, you're not going to believe this, but blah, 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 vampires, da, 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 da. And there's one, and he's in the house, blah. And then the dad comes, he's there in town. He comes bursting in, and the vampire is like there, looming over her, and he shoots his hand off. Like,
ooh.
because and the vampire's like, what's happening? And it turns out the dad and Uncle Joe and Uncle Robbie and all of his unit are monster hunters.
Oh,
That was like the big
nice.
twist. So
Nice.
I took that concept and I took the Unknown Soldiers and I merged them into Lonestar's team. So I really have this super rich background for the entire storyline and for the entire team and everything. But I never got around to it because I've been building these ideas for decades. But I never had an outlet for them. Except for when I did Alias, I did start pumping stuff out. But I just really needed a really good outlet for everything, and the crowdfunding thing made it so number one.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm in a similar boat. I have so many ideas I've been working on for well over a decade in my head, and now I'm trying to figure out. Like, I got so many. How can I introduce them all without, overloading?
All right.
So yeah, so you got certainly 2 issues of Lonestar, 2.5 if you count Monster Hunt. One more coming out, and where do you plan on going with Lonestar after that, if at all?
That is the big question, because I don't want to say what happens at the end of this. But it's a major sea change in the story. So I can move forward. Like, what I wouldn't want to do is just move forward the next day.
Right.
I would want to move it forward 5 or 10 years or something like that, because the Lone Star story actually takes place a little ways in the past. I didn't specify exactly how long, but it's not like yesterday, right?
Right.
Or I want to go back and do some of his, earlier years, because I've got practically a century of Lone Star stuff to deal with.
True.
Or I could do his origin story, like
That would work.
flesh that out. A lot of people want to see that. I don't know. There's a lot of options of things I can do. It would, business wise, it would probably be wise for me to stick with Lone Star. But I've got so many other stories I do want to do. So
I don't blame you.
Hard to decide.
Right.
Hard to decide.
Now,
I will cross that bridge when I get to it.
Right. That was Monster Hunt. I gotta say, and I had Mark Poulton on a while ago, and I was really impressed how you took the one scene that they had where them finding Mick, and then you actually gave up used that as the centerpiece of the whole crossover. I mean, How did working on Monster Hunt come about in general? I'm most curious about.
I was listening to Zach on Ethan's stream one day, and he was talking about the glory days of Image and how it was great because they would just borrow each other's characters and do crossovers, and it wasn't like people were beholden to each other. They just had to get approvals and stuff. And he just loved that. And like the next day I was like, I just messaged him. I'm like, hey, can I borrow your characters for a crossover? And he's like, yeah, I just gotta approve it. And then I just had the idea for crossing over that, and because both teams, Jawbreakers and the Unknown Soldiers, they're both monster hunters.
Pretty much.
Right? And I'm like, It was really weird seeing the because I didn't know anything about Jawbreakers until I got the book in the mail. I didn't really follow, I watched Zach's sometimes, but I wasn't like diligent about it or anything. So when I got it in the mail, and I'm like, I mean, we both have priest and pastor are both of these characters with vision powers, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then you have Knife Hand and Hothead, which both have, like, I don't know, Knife Hand's obviously got projectile powers, but like, glowing hands and all this. I'm like, this is a very strange these teams are very similar, you know,
Right.
both in concept and less in execution, but you know, and so it just seemed like a natural thing that they would go after a monster. I'm like, you know, John has a character called Monster. So I just thought it was perfect, and so
Yep.
I whipped up the plot and I sent it, and Zach loved the plot. John had his editorial suggestions, right? And so we put it together,
Right.
and I wanted it to be its own campaign, and John's like,
Hmm.
no, no. So I had to
Oh,
make it. I just had to make it a little short add-on story, because
right.
that's what he did with my character, because he was already borrowing Lone Star.
Right. For I already got that in the Graveyard Shift supplemental.
Yeah. So he was already borrowing Lone Star, and he didn't want me to
Mhm.
do anything much bigger than what he was doing with Lone Star. So I'm like, all right.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fair.
that sounds perfectly
It's just
fair.
it could have been a 48-page story. And it could have
Oh, it
been,
could. Yep.
yeah.
But I gotta say though, what you did though, it's kind of funny now looking at it, reading Graveyard Shift Volume 2 and Jawbreakers Volume 2 and everything. All of it is pretty much a prequel to all three teams,
Right.
especially Jawbreakers. You can't fit it anywhere else. Now I remember hearing that either from you or from Zach that apparently, I think it was Zach who said that, and it was on an interview with Nerdette, how you originally had one version of the ending for Monster Hunt, and then he told you, actually, this sounds like something I'm going to do in God King. Could you tweak it or something like that? What was he talking about? He didn't go into specifications for spoiler reasons.
Gosh, I don't know. There was a couple things like that with Zach. The Seance was originally, her original power was to make duplicates of herself. She was basically, you know, multiple
Oh,
man, but a chick. But he's like, he said that's essentially was it Silkworm's daughter's power. And I'm like, oh,
oh, that
okay.
explains so much. I knew it. I knew it. I was wondering why there were so many of her.
Well, yeah, so instead I'm like, because my, and the reason I gave her that power, or that I wanted it to be a power like that, is because I wanted to do, you saw the double page spreads with just hundreds
Yep.
and hundreds of
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to draw. I just wanted to draw pages with hundreds and hundreds of characters on there fighting in a all out, you know, massive battle. So that's why I made it. I'm like, well, how else can I do a similar thing? So I'm like, you know, people
Raise the
die
dead.
everywhere. So if I have a character who can somehow bring up the ghosts and make them corporeal, then, you know, that's why you have characters from all time. It's like Indians and pirates and soldiers. And so that's why I created Seance, so she could pull up poltergeists.
Hey, just to give you a little notice, not notice, but you know that Mark Bolton told me on my interview that he really liked the design you gave Lilith. He's saying, he actually told me they're going to try and find a way to incorporate that cape into it because he loved it so much.
Oh, cool.
Don't know if you heard that anywhere, but now
No.
you do.
That's cool.
Yep. Now the Meg. How did I'm assuming that was something you did for another company, and then that fell through, if I recall, right?
It I don't know if fell through. I guess fell through applies. But yeah, that was a book I was doing with the DeBell brothers, who I had been working with. They're the ones that I did the Hedge Knight with. So I had a long-standing working relationship with them. And they, you know, they initially, I was just going to be the art director on the book. But then they gave the movie a launch date of August. And this was back in March or something like that. And I'm like,
oh boy.
Yeah, and I'm like, we have to get this book out before the movie. This has to be in stores before the movie comes out, right? Otherwise, we're gonna miss the entire wave on this project.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told them I'm like, look, I'm the only guy I trust to draw it. That's like, I'll get somebody to do, help me out with the backgrounds, and I will just bust this out. And they're like, okay, that works. And so I started doing it. But I told them, I'm like, I got to get paid up front on the project, because I have a history with the DeBells where things fall apart. But they were being funded by Zach Brown's Southern Ground, which I don't know if you know who Zach Brown is. I didn't before, but this dude is one of the richest, wealthiest country singers on the planet, right? And he's got this company called Southern Ground, and they were funding it. And I met with the CFO of the company. I met with one of their other marketing guys. Great, seemed like very great, trustworthy people. And again, with more money than you could ever need to fund a comic book. And so I'm like, all right, I'll do it. They did pay me up front for the first 2 issues, and I just, bam, I got on the floor. Dude, I'm a workhorse. I just freaking sit down. I get to work. I was banging this thing out. I'm past issue 2 where my funding was. I was like, all right, can you start paying me for the next issues? I'm going to keep going on this because it's got to get done before, it's got to get out before August. And then I'm working and I'm working and I'm working and I'm working and I'm not getting paid. And I'm like, could you guys let me know what's going on? And ultimately, I discovered that Southern Ground got my invoice, and they're like, why are we paying Mike, twice as much as we're paying any other artist? And Les was trying to explain it to him and all of the stuff, but they're like, ultimately, that because Les was using a bunch of, Brazilians and whatnot. And I was even taking a pay cut, which is funny because, I said I was only going to be doing, I just wanted to get it done, dude. I was about the project getting done. And ultimately it just, that they're like, we're not paying for this. So Southern Ground, this super stupid rich company, backed out of funding the project. And at that point, I'm like, look, I am so deep into this project. I'm just going to get it done. Let's get this out before the movie so that we can make our money back. Just give me a bigger, cut on the back end. And then it just, I don't know, it was just one weird delay after. Oh, you know what? He didn't have the money to pay the colorist, so the colorist wasn't turning in stuff. Yeah, and so it got so it was, we way missed August, right? And then I'm like, I had been doing the crowdfunding thing, and I'm like, look, this is a blockbuster movie right now. Let's, launch it as a crowdfunding campaign. I'll give you guys a certain percentage. I said, I'll run it, right? Because I didn't want them running it. I said, I'll run it. Right. I'll give you guys a certain percentage of the profits instead of the other way around, which seemed like a perfectly reasonable option to me. They said, they were good with it. We did it. I got kneecapped right at the beginning of the campaign by a certain loudmouth YouTuber. But let's not get into that. And so it was like just kind of limping around. I got to about, $35,000, something like that. And then I get an email from the author of the book.
Oh,
and he's like, he's like, what's going on here? Yeah, Steve Alton. And he's like, what's going on here? He's like, I haven't given you permission to crowdfund this book? And I'm like, I was told that I had permission to crowdfund this book.
Oh no.
And he's
Oh,
like,
that must have been a.
oh, dude. I was like, wow. Because I had already sold $35,000 worth of comics in this campaign. I'm like, but then he's like, how would you like to buy the license from me? And I'm like, what? He's like, I'm not happy with what's going on. These guys are in breach of contract. How would you like to, continue selling it on the crowdfund and just buy the license from me outright? And I'm like, honestly, that's the only option I had. Right? I couldn't just cancel the entire campaign. Plus, he had his own mailing list of fans that he said he could, start getting people to come in and back from his fan group because he's a New York Times bestselling author. And so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So, dude, I had to cut that guy a big check. In cash, not cash, but literally all one lump sum to get the license to continue the crowdfund. And I didn't have another option. I just had to do it. So I did it. He started helping me promote. We got it up to about $65,000 or something like that. And then it came out, and it's a beautiful book, man.
Oh, I agree. I got my copy right here, and I gotta say, I was surprised to see the Steve Alton book plate in it.
Yeah, and that was another thing. The first 1,000 books that went out, all of them had the Steve Alton book plate in them.
Yep.
Which this is a guy with Parkinson's, so don't think that's any small matter.
Oh, ooh, yikes!
Yeah.
Wow.
So pretty good. So I'm glad that all went through. Steve wants me to license his other books now, but I'm like, I kind of got my own stuff to do.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe fit it in at some point in the future. Not now, but
maybe. He does have this. He's got a movie I think called The Lock coming out about Nessie. He's got the Meg 2 is going to be coming out. So
really cool.
It might be a really good idea for me to actually expend the time and energy to have them done. Maybe not me draw them myself, but
art directed like you were originally going to.
Yeah. But
that would be a bad idea.
Yeah, but I only have so much money in my account, and if I do want to fund another project, I'd probably want to fund, God's Sword or Atomic Family or something. Not somebody else's project. So.
Right. Now with Blessed as Mess, which unfortunately didn't make it. And how long have you worked on that strip?
I worked on for, I guess, about a year or so. I mean, I have over 200 strips. I was doing them almost daily. So, not even a year then.
Because I gotta say, I loved what I've seen of them. It was just like, the whole series, like, it was a stitch, and so much of it's just like, and how much of this is it all based off stuff that's happened in the family, or just
not all of it, but a good portion of it, yeah.
My favorite one has to be the helping your daughter with her Halloween costume, just how that all played out.
Yeah, a lot of that was true.
Even with the balloons, did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh, trying to help her dad.
But duct tape on a giant balloon.
That happened.
We'll put duct tape on a giant. But yeah. No, I love that script. It was really fun to do. There's certain critics who are like, you're just stealing Bill Watterson's style, and I'm like, well,
Ugh.
he just stole Charles Schultz's style. It's what you do.
Yeah. So, now, back to Lone Star. What would you say was your favorite thing to draw in any of the issues so far?
My favorite
Like
thing.
page or pose or whatever.
I have a favorite page. I really like the double page spread in issue 1, where the vampires are all coming at him out of the darkness, and
That was great.
yeah, and then the double page spread of the World War II scene in issue 2
with the Iron Cross, right?
Yeah,
that was great as well. But now, as far as I'll say this, with the very first issue, having that little girl vampire really caught me off guard. It was like, oh shit, he actually went there.
Yeah, and that's a thing about, and that's why he calls them breeders, right? So I have my own little, and you saw it. You saw part of the explanation in Lone Star 2, where they don't create vampires because going back, it's like this all has to do with the origin of Dr. Livingston, and I don't really want to go into it, but it's a single vampire going out of hand can devastate entire communities like overnight, because they just go blind, rabid bloodlust for a day and a night. And so it's more explained in Lone Star 3 because I have the origin of Svarog as the first half of the book. But I have my own kind of like rules for vampires in my universe, and why they have such a reaction to sunlight, why they have to drink blood. You know, the vitamin D is a necessary component for cell. Is it cell? It's not cell growth. Cell regeneration or cell.
Yeah, regeneration. I was thinking.
Yeah. And so, because their cells regenerate so quickly, they use a massive amount of vitamin D. But they have something about their system. I can't remember. I had this all written down, like literally 20 years ago. They can't metabolize vitamin D the way the rest of us do, especially through sunlight, because of their aversion to sunlight. So sunlight burns them, so they can't exactly produce vitamin D through sunlight. They can't metabolize it in any other way but through other animal blood. But they need it, right? Because otherwise they develop rickets. So in my little world, I had like these moral vampires who are like just super deformed because what happens if you lack vitamin D and you develop rickets, your bones soften and they misshape. And so you have these like this little coven of what you might call like leper vampires who won't partake of human blood, but they're like just jacked up. Anyways, they're not in this story. I might use them at some time in the future, but I have all these rules for that kind of explain through a bizarre pseudoscientific reasoning why all of the weaknesses and strengths of vampires exist. So
that's smart. Now, one other question before we go on to your current project is, you've been introducing some of these other characters in the off panel, like in between issue and Lone Star 1 and then near the end of Lone Star 2. What are these characters going to play any part into the final story, or are you just building the universe? You know, like you have that.
Those are universe seeds. I even straight up said, I even used the word seed in the last one, right? A seed,
right?
Holding that. Those are. I have an epic crossover planned for my universe. I don't know if it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but I just want, when it happens, and the Deus Ex Machina happens, I want the people who have been with me this whole time to go look back at it and be like, he did that in issue 1.
Nice.
He started this entire journey in the first book he published in Blacklist Universe.
That sounds so awesome. It's good to have things planned out like that. It's very good to have things planned out.
Yeah.
Now,
so hopefully I can get there.
Now, of course, you're doing MAGAnificent 7, maga7.com, everyone. And now, obviously, I just went over the Walmart stuff. Were you at all inspired by what Tim Lim and the others had done when you did this story, or
I honestly haven't read. I honestly haven't read any of Tim's stuff.
Oh, okay, that's fair. So, what inspired you to do this besides just the politics, or was it just the politics?
Well, as I've been showing on my channel, I designed characters for a project like this during the McCain-Obama election.
Oh.
I've been wanting to do a project like this. I've totally put it off for all this time because, again, you can never, you never know what'll actually work. And then I was just sitting there, essentially not doing much of anything because I was waiting to fulfill Lonestar 2. And Edwin suggested he's like, do you have any ideas for a political comic? Because this is going to be one crazy, political season. And if you're ever going to do one, this would be the time. And I'm like, I actually do have an idea. I feel like if someone could say, hey, do you have an idea for this? I'd be like, I actually do have an idea. And so I sat down and I literally wrote it out that day. The entire script I wrote out that day. And then I had the whole thing written, drawn, penciled, and inked within 3 weeks.
Now, you said it before that one stretch goal is going to be to add more pages to it.
Yeah, if we can get...
Is that going to be like its bonus pages, or how?
I want to give some of the characters more room to let their powers go, right? Like Deadhead, I want to give Deadhead a dedicated scene where he's staring into the eyes of Meltdown, because his power is the incredulous stare. Here, let me...
Yep.
Oh, no, let me not show you. And so I want him to be able to stare into and just be like, there's nothing there.
Look into my eyes.
Yeah, but there's nothing there. There's no soul or something.
Oh,
I want to do that with him. I wanted to kind of flesh out a couple of the other characters' powers, give them a moment to shine in the story, because again, it's 24 pages, so it's all the story beats are there, but there's enough I can add without slowing it down. And so if I could add a few pages, it would be great. But I'm selling it for I'm only selling it for $10. So yeah. I need to make sure I'm selling enough of these that it's worth the time to sit down and bang out another.
Right.
I don't know if I would do a full 8 pages of story, but I could add 8 pages, because you have to add 8 pages at a time to the when you're printing. So it's 8, 16, 24, 32, 40.
Right. It builds up.
Yeah. And then that's your cost goes up, with that too. So.
Right. That's what is asking in the comments saying, I want to see how Deal with the Devil and Six Gun Samurai fit into the Blacklist universe. That's something I'm really anxious to learn.
All right. Well, Anthony Goodwin from Deal with the Devil is going to be sort of the universe FBI liaison. So, like in other universes, you have that kind of a character.
Like
that
the Phil Coulson kind of.
yeah, more or less. So at some point he will be making an appearance in the universe. I don't think I'm going to have, another book of him by himself.
Mhm.
And then Six Gun Samurai 2, if that ever gets made, that involves Theodore Roosevelt, that involves the Rough Riders, that involves Professor Livingston, Dr. Livingston, and
Right.
and it involves the origin of the unknown soldier program.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, let's see who was the one who asked that. P Money, there's your answer. So again, you have MAGAnificent 7, and then so I take it while you're doing this campaign, you're probably getting ready for either Lonestar 3. Am I assuming?
I'm 10 pages into Lone Star 3 art wise. The whole thing's already written. I'm 16 or 17 pages into a secret project I'm doing with another creator that we'll announce. I don't know when we're going to announce it. I think we need to get the covers colored up first.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to do an official, big announcement. And then after I'm done with that project, I'll get back and finish Lone Star 3. And then I have not planned out after that.
All right. Well, hey, yeah. You don't want to get things too far planned out. So that's, just like I always say, try and keep 3 projects ahead is what I feel is best.
Well, that's where I'm at right now.
So right. So
iron's in the fire, man.
So yeah.
Fire.
Right. So is there anything you've learned doing the crowdfunding campaigns? Like any mistakes you ever made that you've learned from, or anything you're like, oh, I'm expecting this. Oh, wait, that didn't go well. Because I know everyone's had faults, or they've stumbled and everything. Like, what have you learned doing crowdfunding? Is what I should have asked.
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to think how I can formulate the best answer here. You can't count on anybody but yourself.
I know where you're going with that, Boyd. I get it.
No, I don't. You don't. I'm thinking of a multitude of people that I was counting on. It's not just who you think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But no, I mean, ultimately, that's a life lesson, though, right?
Oh yeah.
You can't count on anybody but yourself, and unfortunately, most of us can't count on ourselves.
Oh. Hey, if you're willing to admit that, that's a good thing to openly admit sometimes.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know, man. Be careful who you take advice from.
Mm-hmm.
Research what it actually takes and be realistic going in. So yeah, it's really more the advice is more, do the research, figure out
Price points and all that.
not just price points. You can't just throw like being shadow banned right now. That's something I never would have expected out of Indiegogo.
Yeah, that's surprising. Kickstarter was one thing, but Indiegogo.
Yeah. And nobody's mentioning it. Nobody's mentioning it. No one else is talking about it because they're afraid to kick the hornet's nest, right? They're afraid to, bite the dog that bites, or bite the hand that feeds them.
Bite the hand that feeds them.
Right. But here's the thing. If you're on a crowdfunding platform, the only reason you're on that crowdfunding platform is for their audience, right?
Right.
Indiegogo has however many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of users who go on Indiegogo to search, to browse for things to buy, and they stumble on your project. That's why
Right.
you give Indiegogo 5% of all of the money you make. The guy I'm working with on this other project, he's got almost 1 million subs on YouTube, and he's like, why would we use a crowdfunding platform? He's like, I could just set up a website and send people there, because functionally that's what you're doing if you're not. And I'm told him, I'm like, because people go on those websites and they browse, and you'll get more than that 5% you're missing from the people who back your project from browsing. If those people aren't able to discover your project, you're paying Indiegogo 5% for nothing, because
Right, no
everybody
kidding.
I'm sending there, I could just send to my Shopify store.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I don't get why that happened.
I don't either, and
Because
I'm not attributing nefarious causality. It's been 2 days. This is the third day. I haven't gotten any reason back yet, and now I'm into the weekend, which is generally the best days for crowdfunding, and
right.
I am nonplussed.
I don't blame you. I mean, hey, I'm trying to think what else to say, but it's like it'd be more like, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied now. Blah. Yeah, but yeah, I wish you the best in that regard, man. That's all I can say. I wish you the best in getting that resolved.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully,
Yep.
as soon as possible, man.
Now, yeah.
I'm just losing money.
So, yeah, I bet. But so I'm running out of things to talk about. So
well, let's check out the
now is a good time. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, that sounds cool.
All right.
Yep.
Share screen, Chrome tab, Mega 7. All right, I got it on screen.
All right.
There it is. So it is the MAGANificant 7.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I said, ooh, is all I said.
Oh. Yeah, featuring all these great conservative commentators as ridiculous parody superheroes. I get so tired of people, that's not very original. They're parodies. They're supposed to be. What do you think a parody is?
Exactly.
A parody is when you're making fun of a particular character. That's why Deadhead is it's freaking Ghost Rider in a 3P or in a suit. You know, it's like, hello. It's not
exactly. And it's like some people don't know what parody means.
right. They're like, why didn't you come up with original? Because then it wouldn't be a parody, dummy.
Exactly. Then you'd be saying, why are you glorifying these guys? Like,
yeah. Just so people know, we still do have a handful, 7 more Dean Cain signed covers. So Dean has been generous enough to take his time to sign some of the books. Well, he hasn't signed them yet. They haven't been printed. And then Caitlin Bennett, we have, how many left do we have? 17 left. You can still be in the crowd behind Trump. You can get the retailer special. You can get 50 copies for $250. You can give them to friends, kids,
nice.
friends, kids. Original art for the 2 covers. 2 of them are already sold. But yeah, go check it out. You could read some of this stuff. I think it's funny. A lot of people think it's hilarious. But yeah, and did you see?
I think it sounds fun. It does look great.
Yeah, if you read it, I mean, it's funny stuff, and it sounds dumb coming from the author, but you know, one of the biggest things I get the biggest kick out of is like, I'll tell somebody to read it and they can't get through it without laughing multiple times. I'm like, that's a win, dude. Dying is easy, comedy is hard, they say in Hollywood, right? It's hard to write funny, and when you can make somebody laugh out loud, to me, that's like so rewarding. It's like, oh, I actually wrote something that had that kind of a real reaction, you know. So
right now, I just noticed on Wikipedia that at one point Deal with the Devil was optioned as a movie. How did
yeah.
that go about?
Okay, so Deal with the Devil was at Lionsgate, and Lionsgate has this reputation for producing 95% of the thing. You know, a lot of studios, they'll option things to get it off the table so that nobody can ever do it again. Right? So it's like an option doesn't really mean anything. But Lionsgate had this reputation for doing pretty much anything they optioned, they would make into a movie. And so we optioned it to Lionsgate, my manager and I. And then out of the blue, like right before my option was about to re-up, because it was a 2-part option, and it was right about to re-up, and I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a dude who came in and tried to do a hostile takeover of Lionsgate.
Oh,
And so Lionsgate jettisoned everything that they didn't already have on the production schedule. So
ouch.
yeah,
Ouch.
yeah. So Deal with the Devil was one of the projects that got fell off the wayside.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
As soon as it was news that it had lost its option, I had multiple people, production companies, directors coming, wanting to work on the project. You know, the guys that did the Saw franchise, Patrick Melton and
Oh, really?
Marcus Dunstan, Patrick Melton. They wanted to do it. I went up. We had dinner with them. Marcus has actually been on my show. But I don't think this was probably the best thing I've done in my career. We opted to go with, gosh, I can't really say it. I say it because Patrick and Marcus, we had sort of a deal already. But then Broken Road, which is, they're great guys, fantastic guys, but they were kind of small potatoes, right? Broken Road came to us, and they're like, Tom Cruise and freaking, Cameron Diaz, and they're the A-list production company. We're like, we want it too. And I'm like, So we went with Broken Road. Patrick and Marcus were livid.
I bet they were.
And deservedly so. Deservedly so. I do. And then it's been in development at Broken Road all this time. So
oh boy.
we have a director, we have a script. They're looking for an A-lister to add on to it. And I don't know. My whole concept on Hollywood is it's never something until it's at the theater.
Right.
Hey,
how many times have we heard about Youngblood movies being in production?
Yeah. It's never options. An option is a paycheck. It doesn't mean you're getting a movie made. Some people option things for $1 just to get claimed. Oh, if we option it for $1, then we can start doing, putting together a team and whatnot. No, it's not. That's a sucker's bet, because they're taking it off the table. Yeah. So there's still, I still get calls from the production guys at Broken Road, and they're still trying to get it done. I don't know why it hasn't. I know for a long time, this has gone back a long time. The TV show Dexter kind of put a kibosh on it, because Dexter came out and it had a very similar motivation for the killer, right? That Deal with the Devil did. So if it had come out during that time, it would have been like, oh, you're copying Dexter. And I'm like, mother flipping.
I mean, understandable, but yeah, so it's best to wait for that to die down.
Yeah. ultimately, I don't know. It would have been interesting if we had just let Patrick and Marcus go with it, because they would have got it done. You know, it would have been a smaller budget, Saw
Yep.
or collector level. You know, probably a $3 or $4 million budget film, but it would have been out there and it would have been fun and cool.
Nerdette's in the comments saying, "Sorry, couldn't join you. It had to be an emergency babysitter."
That's
Tristan,
all right.
Completely
Tristan.
understandable.
All right, Tristan. Now you have to have me on your show for an interview.
That'll be fair to get back out of that one.
So yeah, that's the story on option. And that's why, you know what? That's why in my universe, in Blacklist, that whole media, movies, TV, all that stuff, that doesn't enter into my equation, because I'm so familiar with how it's more than likely not going to happen for almost everything, that I just want to build a comic book universe that's going to be here in 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you know?
Right. One other thing I also want to add was in Lone Star, the friend of the black girl, what was her name?
Denise.
The one that was a friend of
Denise.
Yeah. I gotta say, I cracked up during that whole ending of the first book, just the whole when she snapped, like, "Okay, girl, are you this guy for real?" It's just like, the fact that there are people like that, it just made me groan. But it's like,
because
you really nailed it there. There are, and it's just like someone will treat you like an equal. It's like, bitch, what do you think he's doing?
Correct.
I gotta say, I love that. But then, boy, I felt bad for her in the second issue, though. It was okay, I didn't care for her, but she didn't deserve
that. What's a vampire gonna do, though?
No argument there.
You gotta save the innocent from the leftists.
Is that part of the reason why? How do you say his name again? The vampire.
Svarog.
Yeah. Is that why you made him Russian? For a bit more of slight jabs, or was that always something you always had in mind?
My initial, I mean, I wanted him to be, basically. Although he far he's 800 years old, so he far predates communism, but he was there through the whole thing, you know.
Right. So one now this is my last point I'll be making, is that I would say I did like how the second issue of Lone Star, we actually had more Lone Star. I appreciate that, like we were introduced to the Unknown Soldiers in the first issue, but that was one of my criticisms for it. It was like, we're introduced to Lone Star, but we don't see him as Lone Star for most of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I appreciate in the second one, it was more about him, and he was Lone Star throughout most of it.
Well, I mean, he's always Lone Star. That's
the outfit, the costume.
Yeah. That's funny, they called him Lone Star since he entered the military in, when he was 16 years old. Because, it was his military nickname. He's from Texas. They called him Lone Star,
Gotcha.
Like calling somebody from California Hollywood.
Well, that's about all I have to ask. Again, guys, and those of you who haven't already, back MAGAnificent 7. It does look like it's going to be fun.
It is fun. It is funny. I'm trying to get through all the lettering so that I can actually, send out PDFs to certain people. Or actually, what I want to do is I want to do a quick short run of digital press copies so that I can send them to, different talking heads on different news sites and whatnot. That would be great. So I'm trying to get that done as soon as possible. But Like I said, I'm trying to make every page funny. So it's a little slower than just writing drama.
Right.
Comedy is hard. So
Yep.
P-Money
Trust me,
says,
I'm still trying to.
P-Money,
Go ahead.
Fox says, Mike is one of the few guys doing crowdfunding issues that I'm actually satisfied with each issue. I wish they'd come out faster, though. I'll try. I'm doing my best, man. P-Money says, my wife was even really upset after she read Lonestar 1, and I told her it would be about a year before we would get the next issue. All right, come on, guys. It's
Okay,
a one-man show here.
Hey, come on. Exactly. You're a one-man show. I mean, even with Tim and Mark Pellegrini, they're saying one's writing, one's drawing. You're both doing both at the same time. So
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
that definitely, yeah. Hey, I appreciate the waiting. I do. You know what I mean? Because once it comes out, I haven't been disappointed yet.
Yeah. So I'll try to do better, guys, okay?
I think they're just busting your balls, I think.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else?
So, yeah. Yep. Nope. That's about all I have. Again, thank you so much for doing this, Mike. It was great having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for stopping by and saying hi in the chat.
Yep.
You want to play the commercial on out?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
The year 2021. President Donald J. Trump is sworn in at his second inauguration. Those who love America celebrate the victory, while those who oppose this great nation melt down.
Okay, I've got you, sir. Call the Minty. We need
The Magnificent Seven.
the children are most vulnerable among us.
Strange animal.
Mostly elderly white people outside. Who are kneeling on the ground, hands up.
Shap Hero.
They can't even enjoy a meal now. We got a bunch of bums running into the restaurant. So forgive the glasses, stuff.
Dr. Savage.
The Journal today published a searing piece about the coming exodus.
The Ingrahammer.
Actually, I do. I split my skull open and I take half of it out and I put it behind my back.
El Rushbo.
Take you seriously as someone who wants to be involved in public conversation.
Deadhead.
If you ever need to find it, all you have to do is look up.
And Dean Cain as the American Avenger. The Magnificent Seven. Brought to you by Mike S. Miller, the artist of DC's Injustice Gods Among Us and Game of Thrones. Magnificent Seven. The culture war starts here.
That is still awesome.
Yeah, my son did a great job with that thing. All right, man. Thanks for having me on.
Mm-hmm. All right, then.
Peace.
Yep, no problem. Take care, guys.
You too.